Who created God? It's the question that's supposed to shut down every religious conversation. Think about it. Christians claim God made the universe, the stars, everything. But if everything needs a creator, then God needs a creator too, right? And that one needs a creator. It never ends. So either Christians are wrong, or they're playing by different rules. But here's what nobody tells you. There's actually a logical reason why something has to break that chain. And once you see it, everything changes. So in this video, we're going to explore 3 key ideas. First, why something has to be eternal for anything to exist at all. Second, why the universe itself can't be that eternal thing. And third, what makes the Christian God uniquely qualified to be eternal. By the end of this video, you'll understand why who created God actually misunderstands what God is, and why that's not just a cop-out answer. All right, let's get started. The chain of causes. So let's start with a thought experiment. Everything around you had a cause, right? Your phone was manufactured. The chair you're sitting on was built. Even you exist because of your parents, who exist because of their parents, and so on. Everything we observe in reality has a cause. Scientists call this the principle of causality, and it's the foundation of all science. Effects have causes, period. But here's where it gets interesting. The infinite regress problem. Imagine we're trying to trace back the cause of everything. I had to write this script, but before I could write it, I had to learn English. But before that, I had to be born. But before that, my parents had to meet. But before that, they had to be born. And their parents before them, and so on. Now, if we keep going and back, where does it end? Some people might say it doesn't end. It's just an infinite chain of causes going back forever. But here's the problem with that, and this is crucial. You cannot traverse an infinite. Think about it like this. Imagine I told you, I'll give you $100, but first you have to count to infinity. Start at 1, then 2, then 3. Could you ever reach infinity? No, because by definition, infinity has no end. You could count forever and never reach it. The domino analogy. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine an infinite line of dominoes stretching backwards forever. No beginning, just dominoes going back infinitely. Now, if someone had to knock over every domino in that infinite chain before the last domino could fall, the domino that represents us right now, would we ever exist? No, because you can't knock over an infinite number of dominoes. There's always one more. Always another cause needed before that. The very fact that we're here, that anything exists, proves that there isn't an infinite chain of causes going backwards. The logical necessity. So here's what logic demands. If everything can't go back infinitely, then somewhere somehow there must be a first cause, an uncaused cause, something that started everything else but didn't itself need to be started, something eternal. This isn't religious thinking. This is pure logic. Even atheist philosophers acknowledge this problem. They just disagree on what that eternal thing is. But the point is, something must be eternal, or nothing could exist. The obvious objection. Now, some people say, fine, something has to be eternal. But why does it have to be God? Why can't the universe itself just be eternal? Problem solved. And that's actually a fair question. Maybe the universe has just always existed, and we don't need God at all. But here's the issue. Science itself tells us the universe can't be eternal. Evidence. 1. The expanding universe. In 1929, astronomer Edwin Hubble discovered something revolutionary. The universe is expanding. Galaxies are moving away from each other. Space itself is stretching. Now, if the universe is expanding, what happens if we reverse time? It gets smaller. Keep rewinding, and eventually you get to a point where all matter and energy in the universe was compressed into an infinitely small point. Scientists call this the Big Bang, the beginning of our universe, roughly 13.8 billion years ago. The universe had a beginning. That means it's not eternal. Evidence 2. The second law of thermodynamics. Here's another problem for an eternal universe: entropy. The second law of thermodynamics tells us that in any closed system, usable energy decreases over time. Things move from order to disorder. Stars burn out. Heat dissipates. Everything winds down. Think of it like a car with a fuel tank. If the universe is a car cruising through time, and right now our fuel gauge reads half empty, that means there was a time when the tank was full, right? If the universe had existed forever, eternal into the past, we would have run out of usable energy an infinity ago. The fact that stars still shine, that energy still flows, proves the universe had a starting point. The universe needs a cause, so we've got a universe that had a definite beginning with the Big Bang, is running on limited energy because of entropy, and operates within time and space. This isn't something eternal. This is something that came into existence, and if it came into existence, it needs a cause. It exists outside of time, space, matter, and energy. What does eternal actually mean? So we've established two things. Something must be eternal, and the universe isn't it. So what could be eternal? This is where the God of the Bible enters the conversation. But first, we need to understand what eternal actually means, because this is where a lot of confusion happens. When most people hear eternal, they think really, really old. God has just been sitting around for a super long time. But that's not what eternal means in theology. God is outside time. The Bible describes God as existing outside of time itself. Before time began, God was there, not as something old, but as something timeless. Psalm 90, verse 2 says, "Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, our God." 2 Peter 3, verse 8 adds, "With the Lord a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day." God doesn't experience time the way we do because He created time. He exists in an eternal present, not bound by past, present, or future. Why who created God doesn't make sense. Now we can finally answer the question, who created God? Here's the thing. The question itself contains a category error. It's like asking, what does the color blue taste like? Or, how much does love weigh? Creation implies a beginning in time, a change from non-existence to existence, and dependence on something else. But God, by definition, is timeless with no beginning, self-existent with no change from non-being to being, and independent, needing nothing else. Asking who created God is applying time-based concepts to something that exists outside time. It's the wrong category of question. The attributes match the requirements. Think about what we have discovered must be true about the eternal first cause. It must be outside of time to avoid the infinite regress, immaterial since it created matter, spaceless since it created space, incredibly powerful to create a universe, and personal to choose to create. And this matches exactly what Christians claim about God. The biblical claim. The Bible consistently presents God as self-existent. In Exodus 3:14, God says, "I am who I am," eternal. Revelation 22:13 calls Him the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, creator of time. Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning, God created," and unchanging. Malachi 3:6 states, "I, the Lord, not change." Christianity doesn't say God is just really old, or God is a thing within the universe that happened to be first. It says God is the eternal, timeless, self-existent ground of all being, the necessary being upon which all contingent things depend. So, who created God? The answer is nobody. And that's not a cop-out. It's a logical necessity. Something must be eternal, or nothing could exist. The universe can't be eternal, because science shows it had a beginning. Therefore, the eternal first cause must be something beyond the universe, timeless, spaceless, immaterial, and unimaginably powerful. The God of the Bible fits this description perfectly. Now, does this prove God exists? Not by itself. This is just one piece of the puzzle, but it does show that the question, who created God, isn't the knockout argument against Christianity that some people think it is. In fact, it's one of the strongest evidences for an eternal creator. So what do you think? Does this sense? Do you still have questions about God's eternality? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this helpful, make sure to like and subscribe for more content exploring faith, philosophy, and the big questions of life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.